Hello and welcome to the Lights Out F1 podcast. We are at episode 12. We just had the Silverstone Grand Prix. It is titled Just Gotta Believe Me Sometimes. Let's take a look where that happened out on track with Nico Hulkenberg.
Great job, Nico. Great job. That was hard. Sorry, mate, but you did a fantastic job there. Scenario 12, please. Scenario 12.
I just don't understand why we couldn't stop early. We just cost ourselves this race. I was generally struggling, not putting any gains or any bullshit like that. You just gotta believe me sometimes. Fucking believe.
Understand, Nico. Fully understand. As I said, you did an absolutely fantastic job with what you had today, Nico.
It's obvious. My tires were 140 and still, no, he's fine. Let him stay out. It's all good.
Copy that, Nico. Understood. Talk about it after the race.
Yes, Hulkenberg not happy with the strategy. His team decided to leave him along. I thought it was very poignant considering a lot of the races out there at Silverstone. Their race was determined by strategy. Norris won, Hamilton won definitely, a few other drivers as well. But tonight in the Five Lights Out segment, we've got Max and Leclerc. Their battles out on track, barging out on the edge of the track, and a few other incidences as well. We got Vettel's current dip in form. We're going to talk about that and his crash, what we thought about all that. The Haas retirements are out early, and also that lap 1 incident which got them to that point. We'll talk about the future of Haas and everything around that. Hamilton, his luck with the safety car and what that left Bottas now trying to do for the rest of the race. We'll wrap all that up. And Renault's progress in the last current few Grand Prix have had a really good run. Plus also to talk about Hulkenberg's not so great race. He is our title of the show after all. And that will finish off the Five Lights Out segment. And don't forget, if you listen to us every week, to give us a like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about us. You can go on our Facebook page. Don't forget we're on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, all your favourite podcast places. Google Podcasts, it's coming soon, promise. But if you could leave us a like or a share or even a rating, that would be awesome. Checkered flag, we'll wrap up a few of the other points that we didn't quite get to talk about in detail. S3 awards as well, that's the Superstar, the Surpriser and the Stinker. The Rookie Watch, some very different opinions on this one this week. Our podium predictions for Hockenheim and how we went in Silverstone. Fantasy League and how I just went so well this week. Absolutely killed it. And then the sim racing and esports news, and with a wrap-up of the F101 esports race in Austria, which, if you are watching us just before, we've got a Silverstone race on Friday night. Don't forget to watch that. If you're watching us on replay, come and watch the replay. I'm sure it was a good race. They always put on a good show. But anyway, enjoy the podcast. Here it is. Well, good evening. Welcome to episode 12. We were just at the Silverstone circuit in the United Kingdom tonight. Just gotta believe me sometimes. That was Nico Hulkenberg post-race. But we've got a pretty damn exciting race to go over with everyone tonight. It was wasn't on too late, wasn't on too early. It kept me awake. It was a good race.
That's 2 in a row, Josh.
I know. We didn't have sausage curbs, though, so that kind of ruins our theory a little bit. But I think Silverstone's more of a... It's a good racetrack. It's got some gravel runoffs here. It's got some fast straights, some good corners. We had it all.
It's a great racetrack. It's one of the iconic racetracks. I mean, every year it comes up about the license. I'm just glad that we don't need to listen to that for another 5 years now that the license has been renewed. So
yeah, well,
it was the only way it was ever going to go, I think.
Yeah, I think I doubted it in one of the first one or two podcasts. I wasn't quite sure. But yeah, you're right. It always seems to be a big talking point come the Silverstone race. But on that, how much of a hard-on did the Sky team get, especially Crofty and crew? Just the fact that they were in Britain. That annoys me every single year.
It is a English, broadcast team in the middle of England with one of the best races on the Formula One calendar. You got to cut them a little bit of slack, I'd say.
I know, but like they're broadcasting to the world, and it just irks people the wrong way. It definitely rubs me the wrong way sometimes. Sometimes I let them pass because of that reason, but yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that gets to me every single time.
Definitely a few things that did irk me this weekend, but I can honestly say the patriotism, I must have overlooked that side of things. I kind of expected, I guess.
Oh, well, fair enough. And you obviously enjoyed this race.
100%.
Well, first light of the 5 lights on, 5 lights out segment, we must talk about Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. They put on a great show, especially that attack that Leclerc had on Max at is it Bale or is it Bale or Vale? The second last corner where he nudged him going on the side, and Max was outside the line, and it had everything. And it was just payback for Austria, I think.
Let me start that conversation with how I laughed when Max was on the radio and he said he's moving under braking. Hello,
Oh, yeah.
You started this. You're the one who rewrote the rules.
Yeah,
So,
that was
I mean,
quite funny.
there wasn't anything really wrong with it. It probably was a little bit of a late move from Leclerc, but hey, how many times has Max done exactly that in the past, and even worse? I remember when he was fighting with Kimi, I think it was in Spa or Monza a few years ago, and Kimi just could not get past him because every time he went to make a move, Max would move at the last minute, jink this way and then jink that way, and Kimi was frustrated as all hell.
Yeah, I think Hockenheim as well was one of those tracks Kimi had issues at.
Well, Max has done it more than once. That's what I'm saying. He rewrote the rules.
He did. I mean, Leclerc, there was that late move he had. It was almost like they moved to the left or the right, wherever it was, at the same time, coming down that back straight before you get to the pit entry. Like, Max went right, but Leclerc, they synchronized it. Like, you couldn't really call it late because it was sort of just a timed move from both of them at exactly the same time. But it was so good to watch.
We have had so much, chatter and talk about stewards this and stewards that in the past few races. Well, it's been probably the topic of this year so far, but it was just good old-fashioned wheel-to-wheel racing, and the stewards are finally starting to relax a little bit. Obviously, there was that moment when Max was fully off the track defending his position. Now, if we're a stickler for rules, I guess you could say that should have been a penalty, but no, we're not going down that route. So
it was just hard racing, man, and it was good.
It really was. It was
just
fantastic to watch.
Yeah, it was good to know that they just let them sort it out on track and not in the steward's room after the race. So I was happy to see no penalties like that were handed out.
And you could definitely see the difference in Leclerc too, couldn't you? Coming from Austria.
Oh yeah.
Like, he was obviously scorned from there, but he did say, okay, well, now I know that that's allowed, and you could see that in his driving, that he pushed it to the limit. All's fair in war, isn't it? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, all's fair. Well, yeah, that is what they say.
Something.
Say something like that. But yeah, because they clanged wheels on that second to last corner as Leclerc just nudged his nose in there, and that's where Max went wide. But yeah, same thing. I think he only did that because that's what happened to him in Austria, and it just played out like that.
He was just too nice in Austria, is what he's decided in his head. So he said, okay, well, if that's how we're playing the game, that's how we're playing it.
Yeah, well, he's figured it out. But yeah, Max.
They did touch, but there was nothing untoward about it. And they both were pretty fair, and it was great to watch. And it wasn't just them, so it was behind them as well, with Vettel and Gasly were having a little battle there for a while.
Yeah.
Before that, Hamilton and Bottas, which we'll probably come to, they were having a battle. It was just all over the place. Ricciardo and Norris, they were wheel to wheel. There was just so much wheel to wheel action.
Yeah. How good was it? Talking back to Leclerc, he made that overtake on, was it Gasly at Village on the outside? Do you remember?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
He was just on a different level to Vettel this weekend, wasn't he?
Oh, completely different.
Right through even qualifying. Like I can't remember the exact numbers. He was almost half a second ahead of Vettel, I believe.
Let's have a look. Charles
There might have
Leclerc,
been 0.6 in it.
he got a
0.5?
125.1 in Q3, and Vettel did a 125.7. Yeah.
That's what I thought. It was quite a big gap. I mean, you would not expect that from a 4-time world champion, and he's just off his game this weekend.
What? Yeah, Vettel. We will mention him in a second, but yeah, just Leclerc's showing him up. You'd almost think Leclerc's the number one driver if Vettel
Well,
wasn't
he's stepping up.
easily. And what about
But
Max?
on the back of Austria.
Max had...
Yeah, well, I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you go on.
On the back of Austria, these two battling, and then again here in Silverstone. I mean, how good is the future of F1 looking with these two youngsters? And then you've got Norris coming. And
Well, Albon as well. Albon had a cracker of a weekend. So, yeah,
more of this, please.
Yeah, F1's looking... Yeah, for those people that said a couple of weeks ago, you're never watching F1 again, you've missed 2 in a row.
Yeah, we've come from the doldrums of boring F1 to just being out of this world these last 2 races.
Yeah, well, it was Max and Leclerc that put on a fantastic show. And, yeah, I can't wait to see what they bring to Hockenheimring. That's for sure. Now...
That generally is good racing too in Hockenheim, so yeah, I'm with you there.
Well, we had a good Friday Night League race at Hockenheim last time we were there.
we have a good Friday Night League race every week,
No, I
don't
know,
we?
but like that one sticks in my mind for whatever reason. That was just if you haven't seen it, I think it was season 3. Go and check out the Hockenheim race we had. It was a banger of a race.
That was from memory. I'm just trying to think. I think that was a little bit wet, a little bit dry race. It was a bit of a mixed conditions race from memory. I think we started wet and then finished dry.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a good race.
It's been a continuing theme in the league. Anyway, back to the real F1. That was the first light. Let's talk about the second light because Leclerc has shown him up this weekend by a long way. It's Sebastian Vettel. He's dip in form. That crash. Just what is wrong?
I just don't know. I don't know if it's all just snowballing from Canada, if it's still on his mind, or... Do you know, speaking of the crash itself, you got to... It's such a millisecond decision there, you know? Like, It could go either way. It's just nothing is going his way at the moment, and it's just making him look... not worthy of a 4-time world champion at the moment. All these little mistakes he keeps making, and it's just he needs to start getting these tiny little 50-50s to go the other way, but it's just not working for him at the moment.
Yeah, with that crash, I was reading online that people reckon Max was doing these little micro movements, but I can't really see that was an issue. I think Vettel just timed it wrong.
Yeah, but that's coming down. People that are saying that, and you know me, I'm not like a Max fanboy or anything, but Max, that's coming down hanger straight, and then Max has chucked it down the inside, so it's the momentum that is carrying through Stowe, which is naturally pushing his car out to the left of the track, but he's got to try to bring it back to the right.
Plus he's chucked the anchors on.
That's what I'm saying. And then I think for a second there, Vettel thought he was opening it up. That's that millisecond where Vettel made the decision, I'm going for it, but then it's just closed on him and it's too late. And then the aero wash, you lose the aero grip and it's all over.
Well, everyone
we all saw what happened.
The commentators were saying just how similar it was to the Ricciardo Max crash at Baku that year. It was like same situation. And
it was at high speed. It's like, over 200 k's an hour.
Yeah.
It's not like they're driving around a car park at 40 kilometres per hour here.
No. So, I mean, I'd give all blame to Vettel. But he did the right thing later on. He gave that spot back, which was generous, I guess. Could have just kept going.
But he did the right thing after the race too. I don't know if you saw it or not, but the very first thing he did before even Max got out of his car, Vettel walked over to Max, shook his hand and basically apologised. So I thought that was pretty classy.
Well,
and
yeah.
And afterwards in the pen, he took full responsibility for it. So he's not standing here in front of the world media and making excuses, or he's copping it on the chin. He's basically saying, it's my fault, I cocked up,
Yeah, well, he did.
So I'm saying his driving is leaving a lot to be desired at the moment. But as a person, I'm actually warming to him a lot more and more and more ever since Webber's retired.
Oh, yeah.
I've said this a few times. But he's showing a lot of class. I was asking you earlier if you saw his tribute to Charlie Whiting, and if anyone hasn't seen it, you should go to Formula1.com and have a look at Vettel's tribute that he did to Charlie Whiting on Thursday, I think it was, leading up to Silverstone. It's about a 2.5-minute speech, but it's a pretty awesome speech that he gave. Pretty heartfelt.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I should go have a look as well. Now, Vettel's weekend, though, the bad form really started at qualifying. He was just nowhere to be seen. He just couldn't match the pace of everyone else. I think he was lucky, really, to get to Q3. But I just don't know what went wrong for him and where it's all stemmed from. Like you said, Canada, but that's a long time to be holding on to something like that.
I don't know if he's necessarily holding on to it. It just seems to be... It's kind of started the domino effect, and just from there on everything just... Well, I guess if you want to go right back, you could go back to Germany last year. So now we're talking almost 12 months on now. So it's just all these little things constantly. It's got to play on your mind, no matter how strong you appear to the media. Surely behind closed doors, it's got to be affecting him.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be affecting the likes of Grosjean, like last year. I'm not talking about anything that's happened this year, but like last year, you could see in the Netflix documentary, like just how his mental state, everything was getting to him. Every mistake, it was like, why me, why me, why me? So I wonder if Vettel, it's, the crash, Canada, just losing the win, just not getting through in qualifying, like you said, all those things sort of just pile on top of each other and it just becomes too much. And his racing suffers.
I'm honestly just starting to think that if he's not going to retire, as some rumours have been suggesting, I just feel like he needs a complete reset. I feel like what he tried to achieve with Ferrari just hasn't worked. And I think it's not necessarily either or, as in Ferrari's fault or his fault, but I feel like it's just come to a point now where he just needs to leave Ferrari, kind of like Alonso just needed to part with McLaren,
Yeah.
And even going further back, when Alonso needed to just part with Ferrari, after 10 years, it just wasn't working for him. I think...
Sorry, go on.
I was just saying, I think this is a very similar situation where, yes, he's won races, yes, he's challenged for titles, but it hasn't quite crescendoed for him the way he hoped.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to bring up too. That, yeah, it's just been so long between meals right now, or wins, basically, that... Do you think it'd help him to have a year off, maybe, and sort of rediscover the passion again? Because it sort of seems like he's going through the motions every weekend now and not really enjoying it, I would assume.
Look, I think it's definitely a possibility, but the worry there is, as we just mentioned earlier, there's so many gun youngsters coming through that the seat opportunities could be the problem.
But surely, if he took a year off, I don't know who Ferrari would take, but surely Ferrari would want him back. I mean, he's no Michael Schumacher, but I don't know.
I mean, they've got Leclerc there now, so I don't know if they'd be so desperate. I'm even wondering if they're kind of maybe not necessarily in Leclerc's corner right at this point in time, but I'm sure they're starting to sway.
Yeah, well, I definitely would be if I was, part of the Ferrari outfit.
I think there's only 5 points between them now, and that's with Leclerc having suffered early on in the season with a couple of, dodgy strategy calls because they were focused on Vettel.
Yep.
And Vettel himself is quite a way behind Verstappen in the championship now.
Well, I guess it's his home race next race, so I guess if there's anywhere for him to bring himself back to the top, it would be at home.
I still see him going back to Red Bull.
You reckon? Red Bull?
Maybe. Could you see maybe a Verstappen-Vettel swap?
Oh,
That's a bit out there.
Well,
No, I haven't heard any rumours. That's just in my own mind, that one. But
I find the Ricciardo rumour very interesting at the moment about his links to Ferrari.
And apparently he has a clause in his contract. I've read that even when he signed with Renault, there was a clause in there where if one of the top two teams came knocking, that he would be released from his contract.
Right.
As in, if Mercedes or Ferrari came knocking on the door, which is sounding like it could be a possibility, especially if Vettel ups and leaves suddenly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's rumours that obviously that he is going to retire, so who knows?
I mean, the silly season, used to be at the summer break with all these drivers moving around and all the rumours around. But these days, the silly season just seems never to end. It's kind of like from Australia, when the season starts, the silly season has also started. Driver talks, rumours. The Haas boys are rumoured to be, Gunter's had enough, which is going to bring us on to our next light. Yeah.
Well, before we do, I just wanted to say, with the Ricciardo Vettel thing, did you know at the moment, Ricciardo's sitting on, it's a good amount of money. I don't know if you saw this during the week. $49 million. That's Australian, by the way.
Yeah, he's on a $40 million contract, is what I've heard.
Yeah,
40 million euros.
49 million US, Australian, and Sebastian at Ferrari's on a 56 million Australian contract. So, man, obviously Ferrari can offer Ricciardo the money, and I think Ricciardo would do really well in the Ferrari seat. So, I don't know. Maybe Vettel's time is up.
Well, for Ferrari to take Ricciardo, they would obviously need to compensate Renault heavily as well. But like you said, I don't think money is an issue at Ferrari. No. It's if they really want him, but then it begs the question of why didn't they jump at him last year when they had the chance?
Well, I would put that down to the fact that, I mean, Leclerc was such a promising prospect. They got him pretty cheap. I think he's only on 18 million.
Or maybe it was more the fact that at that point in time, there was still a lot of belief in Vettel, and maybe Vettel had more of a say in Ricciardo.
I don't think we should write Vettel off just yet, but...
Yeah, I'm not writing him off, but it's just... I guess all sports people have a slump in form.
Yeah.
And I guess you could put this down to that.
I know.
But it's a long slump at the moment.
Leclerc's on $4.5 million. Still a lot of money, but... that's a big difference between the number one and the number two.
Yeah. Well, Vettel's really going to have to dig himself out of this hole. How? I don't know. I think we can definitely say Hamilton has well and truly, psychologically, if nothing else, crushed Vettel.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, that's light 2, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get on to light 3. And it's a tricky one. It's Haas. A lot happened this weekend for Haas. First off, we heard about them losing the Rich Energy contract, which they had apparently wanted to be beating Red Bull by this time of the year, which just seems ridiculous.
Apparently the person who put out that tweet from the factory there has been now sacked.
Oh, the tweet from...
Yes.
From, what's it called?
From Rich Energy.
Rich Energy. Really? Why were they sacked?
Because it was untrue, apparently.
I didn't even take any notice. Were they running the Rich Energy livery?
Yeah, of course they were.
I didn't even pay any attention. So that
come Saturday morning, it was all denied by Rich Energy, and they were saying that it was some rogue employee put that out.
Oh, okay. So I didn't even catch up with that. I was so busy with the house actually this weekend. I didn't really get much time to watch the F1.
But the entire Rich Energy thing is just... I'd really love there to be a investigation, a documentary into where is Rich Energy.
Well, I've seen people on Twitter posting photos of the cans. Like, they get them at the servo and stuff. I mean, there's a energy drink here in Australia called Red Eye. Have you ever heard of it?
I have not,
It's been around since I was in high school, because I used to bloody live off the stuff in high school. You can get it at Coles, but it's also at like IGA. So I mean, there are obscure energy drinks out there, but I've never found Rich Energy. I don't know if they sell it outside of the UK, let alone there's that one service station that apparently people can find it.
So I don't know where this Rich Energy came from. From everything I've seen online and read, it just seems like there's something shady there, but we can only go with what we've got.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just leave them there, and they are still the sponsors of Haas Formula One team.
Oh, well, I didn't realise that.
Which on Thursday they were not last week, according to Twitter.
According to Twitter, maybe we should believe everything we read. But
Yeah.
Haas, the boys come together at turn one. Oh, not turn one, but on lap one, getting punctures. I think slow puncture for one, puncture for the other. It just ruined their. What were they thinking? I don't know. Have you heard anything from the boys after the race?
We were just saying how Vettel cannot take a trick. Man, can Haas.
Oh,
like
Gunter must be fuming.
Like,
can't wait for the Netflix
we're all talking
show.
about it, but we all are chomping at the bit to get our hands onto next year's Netflix series. I'm telling you.
It's gonna be
Can
great.
you imagine the fireworks this weekend?
They could make a series just out of Gunter every weekend.
A reality show just on Haas. Don't worry about Formula One.
Who was it? Was it Magnussen pushing Grosjean, or was it the other way around?
Look, Grosjean is just, honestly, he's nowhere. So early on in the race, and around that corner, he's got so much room, but he just proceeded to...
Who was it that pushed who? I can't remember.
Grosjean pushed
Magnussen.
Magnussen. They came into, was it turn 3, side by side. Magnussen on the outside.
Was it onto the
Grosjean
Wellington straight, wasn't it?
Oh, okay, so turn 4.
Yeah.
And they came on there side by side, and then Grosjean just proceeded to, do what Max did at Austria.
But
to his teammate this time.
I kind of wonder why Magnussen was out there. I know Grosjean pushed him along, but I would have not been looking in my mirrors at that point thinking someone's right next to me.
Well, it was lap 1, so they're jostling for position, cars all around. So
Yeah,
you have to be looking in your mirrors.
No, I know, but I kind of think Magnussen was a little bit... I just feel like he was a little bit aggressive there, considering it was lap 1. Trying to go around the outside. I don't know. That's just how I saw it. I thought it all happened so quickly.
And they both got as you said, a rear tyre puncture because they pretty much touched wheel to wheel, but it was sparks flying, so it wasn't just a little love tap. It was a fair decent tap. They both retired as a result.
Yeah, well,
consequently from it, didn't they?
Yeah, well, I think one of them was lapped on lap 3, so basically their race was over.
That was Magnussen when he came out of the pits.
Yeah, and then Grosjean went for another 5 or 6 more laps, and they weren't ever going to catch up because I think at that moment they were a minute or so behind the leader, and Kubica was 25 seconds off the leader, so they were just not making up any time.
Well, that's what Gunter said after the race when he was livid, and he said, he said, we finally get into a position where we can make something of the race, and even if not finish in the points, where we can learn something from it, and that's what they go and do. Yeah. And he actually left the statement open as to how displeased with the drivers, both of them, he was.
I wonder if there's some tension between the two, because I know Grosjean's had a rough time and Magnussen's been getting all the results up until lately. So I wonder if Grosjean is sort of just trying to stay in the team, basically, to stay employed.
Well, I'm a little bit of a K-Mag fan, but he has been quite disappointing of late, but I don't know how much of it's the car and how much of it is himself, but we all know K-Mag is a bit of a, to put it politely, I don't give a shit kind of guy.
Yeah.
And Grosjean, he just can't see. He mustn't have any peripheral vision at all. Not just this one incident, but just all of them adding up. He's just looks straight. He's got like blinkers, like a horse with blinkers. So no spatial awareness. That's the word I'm looking for.
Right. So you'd put it all on Grosjean, wouldn't you?
Look, if I was Gunter, I would be getting rid of Grosjean before I got rid of K-Mag, but I'd freaking be close to getting rid of both of them, I tell you right now.
Yeah, I reckon Grosjean's he hasn't really shown much at all since he's been there for a while now, and he just hasn't had the results. I mean, Hartley was given less of a chance. So,
And you can say, oh, he's just unlucky, and he,
but sometimes you make your
doesn't
own luck.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. That's what I say. I mean, like Hulkenberg never finishing on the podium, for example. He's still yet to finish on the podium after, 160 races or something he's had.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, he must be the most unluckiest. And I always say, well, come on, man. After 150 races, there's got to be at least one race where you make your own luck and you jag that third place.
Even
but
Stroll got one.
even Maldonado got a win,
Yeah.
let alone a podium. So
That's true. Yeah, Haas are just, I don't know.
the biggest problem for Haas is what do they do if they sack them both? Where does that leave them? Who do they bring in? I don't think no one springs to my mind of someone waiting in the wings of Haas. I mean, it would be ideal for them to get a young American driver, but I don't think there is someone waiting in the wings.
No, I think if anyone, you get rid of Grosjean and you go from there, and that's the end of that.
And there's still Ocon waiting there, but Haas ain't a Mercedes team. Although Toto has said that they will release Ocon if it means he gets a Formula One drive, so I guess that could be a possibility. But one thing I have been thinking in my mind, the more I think about it, the more I like it, is that I feel like Perez would be a perfect fit there at Haas, because he would bring some money with him, extra cash to the Haas team.
Yeah.
And we all know he can race. He's definitely a much better driver than Grosjean, in my books anyway.
Oh, yeah, easily.
And it would get him away from all the Stroll bullshit.
Yeah, and he's had a bit of rough time with the team going into administration and all that other bullshit that went on last year.
So I feel like that would be a good fit, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Well, we'll see what happens. Well, that was Light 3. Haas's retirement and their whole weekend, basically. Light number 4. Let's talk about, basically, Mercedes. Hamilton got so lucky with the safety car. Bottas unlucky. First off, I think we should talk about Bottas at the start of that race. He had a great qualifying lap, because the second time round, no one could best their time. So the track was just evolving crazily.
And it was so close between them, but Bottas is proving to be a great qualifier.
Oh, yeah.
That was his 10th pole, but he just doesn't seem to be able to convert, unfortunately.
Well, I think he was doing a really good job of holding off Hamilton there, where Hamilton got around him at Luffield and then he side-by-side at Copse. That was freaking intense.
That was awesome, that battle between the two of them, and they never looked like actually colliding. They were both on the edge, but you could see there was respect given once again, and that was a great battle. And how surprised were you when you saw Bottas come back? Like, as soon as Hamilton passed him, is it Bridge, that right-hander?
Yeah, I don't know the name of it.
Before Copes,
Yeah.
where the old pits are. When Hamilton got past, you think, job done, that's it, because leading up to that, he was all over Bottas. He had so much more grip than him. I don't know what it was, but he was able to put his car to the left, to the right, all over Bottas. He had so much more grip, and he finally got in front. And then the stupid cameras, that's my biggest bugbear.
Oh,
Did
where
you
they
notice?
shot to the crowd?
Like fair
Yeah.
income, they started doing this in Austria, and it was doing my head in, constantly cutting over to the crowd. It doesn't make me feel like I'm there if that's what they're trying to achieve.
No, I wanna watch
I
the
want to
race.
see the racing.
Yeah.
At least finish the move and then cut to the crowd. But mid-move, Bottas is just fighting back, and they go and cut to the crowd for 3 seconds.
Yeah, I know. That
What the hell is
that
that?
pissed me off too. I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is some good racing out there, and you're showing us the bloody crowd. Like, I don't care.
Like, that's just a TV director
Trying
or
to be
cameraman. I don't know who has the call here, but whoever is in charge of that situation right there has no idea about Formula One. He thinks he's providing entertainment by showing the crowd. Like, seriously.
Yeah, I don't know. I get.
I was so pissed, man.
I know it was Hamilton. You could hear them cheering, and I know he probably wanted to show that, but like, they were still battling for position. You just don't do that.
Mate, let me tell you, on a Sunday night at 11 o'clock or midnight, I do not turn on the Formula One so I can see the crowd that is at the Formula One.
No.
I turn it on to watch the cars.
Exactly. I know what you mean. But yeah.
But that was just something that really pissed me off. But I was so surprised that Bottas actually fought back and then they went into Copes pretty much side by side, and that's a flat-out corner.
Yeah. It was
just wow.
I was like, is Bottas getting his mongrel back? And I think he sort of was, but because he was actually ahead of Hamilton was negative after the first pit, so he was never going to be able to get back and undercut him or anything. Or overcut him rather. But the safety car came out, and everything changed. Everything changed
badly. I don't know if I'm necessarily in the Hamilton just lucked into this win camp, but I can definitely say that I'm in the Bottas got screwed hard camp.
Oh yeah, because it was lap 20 because didn't Bottas come in early anyway?
Lap 17, they pitted Bottas and they put him on mediums again. So from that point, you already know he's going to have to stop one more time because he's still on the same tyre. And then 3 laps later, when they pitted Hamilton, they put him on the hard. So
well, obviously you would.
I kind of feel like Mercedes did a bit of a Ferrari this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it's a beautiful thing, but you sort of wonder if, because Ferrari they always seem to run long to wait for that safety car, but you would have thought, being the track that it is, because I'm pretty sure it's got a pretty high record of safety cars anyway at Silverstone. And Bottas was coming in. He was coming in early, I think, trying to get Ferrari to reply, but it just didn't. It didn't work. Because 3 laps later, there was a safety car on track, and Hamilton got a free pit stop.
Well, my question is, on lap 20, when they pitted Hamilton, they put him on the hard tyre, and pitting under the VSC, obviously that was a big advantage, so he got to come out in front. But why didn't they pit Bottas right there and then and put him onto the hards as well, if they knew that was the way to go to the end of the race?
That was my next question. I was going to ask the same thing. I don't know why they didn't pit Bottas.
No matter what happened, once that safety car came out, because Hamilton hadn't pitted before it, there was no way that Bottas was going to end up in front after the safety car. It just
was never going to happen, no.
It was never going to happen. But to kind of make the best of a bad situation, I feel like they should have brought him in and put him on the hards and go to the end of the race. Whereas, because they knew they had to pit him again, so why not take the free pit stop under the VSC? Or it wasn't even a VSC, sorry, under the actual safety car. Yeah, so it's a free pit stop.
Yeah.
And it's a short pit lane as it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I know they just put the tyres on, but Hamilton got to the end on that set of hards.
Exactly.
And
I mean, he not only got to the end, he did the fastest lap of the race on the last lap of the race.
That was incredible.
After being told he had to pit with about 5 or 6 laps to go because the tyres weren't going to make it by the pit crew, but Hamilton actually overrid them and said, no, I'm not pitting. And then he goes ahead and does the fastest lap. So does that guy making the strategy call there not have egg on his face?
Yeah, well, that's why I like the name of our episode this week, because Mercedes, I guess they gave Hamilton the benefit of the doubt, but some other teams didn't give their drivers the benefit of the doubt. We'll get to that. But, yeah, getting the fastest lap at the end of the race, because he's the driver, he can obviously see the temps, he can feel the car, he knows what's going on, because, if you go into that pit lane, you might have enough of a gap to make it, but what if there's a cross thread? What if the jack doesn't go up? All these different variables that can happen. If he's happy out on track, just leave him.
And just Hamilton being Hamilton, I almost feel like that last lap ditch at the fastest lap was just to prove his point, to say, listen,
totally.
I'm telling you, I had the grip.
Yeah, because they obviously go back at the end of every race and have a debrief for everything that happened, and I think that was, him telling them that they were wrong, basically.
Well, there's a few things that came out of that for me. The first thing that I didn't like about him getting the fastest lap on the last lap of the race, that's on 32-lap-old hard tyres.
Yeah.
I feel like you just shouldn't be able to do that.
Well, that's because...
That's where I just feel...
You got to run high fuel at the start.
But that's what I'm saying. I just feel like 32-lap-old tyres shouldn't be able to do that. I feel like I keep saying it that Pirelli have got these tyres wrong, and to me that's almost proof that Pirelli have got these tyres wrong.
Yeah. I'd also say it comes down to the... Like you were wanting refueling back in the game. I think if we had refueling, you'd see quicker times on quicker tyres, not the other way around.
You would. But that was just my quick little tyre jab. But the other question I wanted to ask also is, when the safety car came out, that was when Gio lost it and he parked it in the kiddie litter.
Yep.
So the crane had to come onto the track to crane the car away.
Yep.
So the safety car was called.
Yep.
Isn't that what the VSC is for?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but I think the reason the safety car was called is because of where it was, the speeds that you come into that corner, high brake, it's high braking, the runoffs there. It just reminded me of Suzuka with Jules. Same sort of thing. So I think to get the safety car out, they can control the pace a lot better. And I think it was just a massive safety call over anything else.
Am I wrong in thinking? I was going to look this up before the podcast, so this is my bad. But wasn't the VSC introduced as a result of Jules Bianchi's death?
I couldn't
accident?
give you an answer to that.
Because I want to say that Jules Bianchi's accident was under double yellow flags and he didn't slow down enough. And that's when, after looking at all what they can do and stuff and bringing in the halo, I thought that's when they introduced the VSC after his death. But I will stand to be corrected on that. I should have done my research before the podcast because I meant to. I was having a conversation with Zen about this yesterday, but I'm not. I need to double check that because I remember thinking at the time, why are we having a safety car when they could have just put a VSC out? Again, it wouldn't have changed the situation too much, but maybe the deficit lost in the pits would have been halved.
Oh, definitely. I know the Jules Bianchi thing, the halo was one of the big talking points that came out of that incident.
Definitely, yes.
Oh, no, I think you're right. The virtual safety car was something that came out of that incident.
That's what I thought.
I'll read you just a little thing here. It's on BBC Sport. It says the system, obviously talking about the VSC, which forces drivers to slow down in an accident zone, is aimed at eliminating the possibility of a repeat of the accident that left Bianchi in a critical condition. In the event of a crash, drivers will have to keep their speed to about 35% slower than a normal dry lap time. They'll be added by a dashboard display. This is obviously way before it even was in place. If they exceed the specified speed limit, when the VSC is in place, they will face penalties. After testing the system, the governing body FIA will decide in tandem with the teams when it can be formally introduced. So, yes, you're right.
Thank you for that. That's what I thought. So, because as soon as the safety car was called, I thought, hang on a minute, why are we calling a safety car? I thought the safety car was for dangerous situations on track, like, for example, a couple of cars stranded on track, or a car, all carbon fibre needs to be cleared up, and you're going to have the safety of marshals to worry about on track.
Yeah.
That's what I thought the safety car was for, and the VSC was exactly for this situation, to get a car safely out of the way that's not on track.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they called a safety car, but anyway.
It was something that crossed my mind when it happened, because I was sort of thinking, like, isn't that why we have a VSC? But I don't know. It's, bizarre. But anyway, that's what happens, I guess. Anyway, no one was hurt. But Hamilton winning the race. He got very lucky with the safety car, and Bottas just wasn't his day at the end of it.
You know, one thing that's been lost amongst all of this too
What's that?
was this round 8 we just had,
Yeah, I think
or round
it
9.
was 8 or 9, yeah. I couldn't tell you.
I'm just thinking of it now that, well, if that was round 9, we've had 8 1-2s for Mercedes now. Austria being the first non-Mercedes 1-2. Is that correct?
It's actually round 10.
Round 10.
Yeah. No.
No, we've had Canada.
Yeah.
Canada was a Ferrari, Mercedes, either way, on track anyway, definitely a Ferrari, and I forgot about that one. Okay, I was just thinking now because that was another 1-2 on the weekend for Mercedes.
Yeah, no, they 1-2. That thing stopped, I think, Canada. Because I think they got about 7 or 8 in, and then it just didn't happen again. And then you had last week with Max.
Yeah, that's why I was just thinking it broke last week, but I forgot about Canada.
Broke before that, yeah.
My bad.
You're right. All right. Well, that was light number 4.
So,
let's get on to the 5th and final light. We're going to talk about Renault. They're showing some really good progress, and then we'll talk about Hulkenberg's race, where we get the title of this episode from. But how good was it to see Ricciardo and even Hulkenberg fighting for some real solid points on the weekend?
well, from lap 1 in the first stint, Ricciardo and Norris had a great ding-dong battle there.
Yeah, they did.
They were going side by side into a few corners as well for the first couple of laps, and Norris did get the better of Ricciardo. And then in the end of the race, Ricciardo was chasing down Sainz.
Yeah.
And they were nose to tail. And I can just imagine Renault must have been desperate for Ricciardo to get ahead of Sainz. It didn't happen, but, so the what do you call it? The customer team beat the
works team
factory
again.
team.
Yeah, it's not the first time it's happened either.
But this time they were actually fighting, and he actually had a chance to pass him, so they would have been dying, just like in France. Very similar track, another fast track again. So I don't know if they're having trouble with slow speed corners. If remember early on they did have a lot of braking issues.
Yeah.
Again, I'll bring up our mate Zen. Speaking to him, he believes that they've just got a fundamental issue with their front wing, and they're just really struggling with front-end grip in the slower corners, which there is merit to that when you look at the tracks that they're suffering. I mean, in France and here, look how good they did.
Yeah, that's true. They did really well.
What surprised me too, also, on a little side note with Silverstone is, I don't know if you heard this or not, but Jenson Button, he made a comment on the weekend, which I was like, wow, really? He said that they're pretty much 80% of the lap is full throttle around Silverstone these days.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And when you watch them come around, is it Hanger Straight? No, Wellington. I don't know the names of them.
The Hanger Straight's the old pit straight. The Wellington
Yes.
Straight is the one after Village and turn 2, 3, 4.
So they would come down Hanger Straight flat, go around Copes in flat.
Up to Maggots and Beckett's.
Then they will go through Maggots flat. And then the right-handers flat as well before they first lift off the accelerator. And when you watch that on board, that is just crazy.
It is not. And they're so smooth with it too. They don't seem, I'm sure they're bloody fighting the car, but the onboards that I saw one of Ricciardo as well, and it just looked like he's just like turn left, turn right, turn, and off they go. It just looks effortless.
So these cars, the aero, the downforce on them is just ridiculous. They are just taking these corners as straights now. It's just, a track like Silverstone, 80% flat chat.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. Absolutely crazy.
That just blew me away when I heard Jensen mention that. I'd never thought about it, and I just went, wow.
Well, yeah, Ricciardo had a good weekend with Renault, but Hulkenberg not so much.
He was not happy, Jan, at the end there.
I think was his first issue was it after the restart hitting Perez in the front wing there.
Yeah, Perez hit him after the restart. Yes.
Yeah, that ruined Perez's race, but it didn't help Hulkenberg's race out too much either. And then after that, he was told to run long when he clearly was not happy with that.
Apparently, he was begging his team, telling him, these tyres are done. I'm really struggling out here. I need tyres. And they were saying, no, stay longer. We're good. Stay longer. We're good. And when you listen to his radio call, he was like, guys, this is after the checkered flag. He was pissed.
Yeah, well,
he was
like, my
I've
tyres
never really heard him
140.
really angry before, but he was, you just have to trust me sometimes, guys. He was like, I'm telling you, the tyres were done.
I wonder if
I'm not playing.
I wonder why that
He said,
didn't
I'm not
happen.
playing effing games.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I wonder why that didn't happen to Ricciardo. Why is it that they wanted to run Hulkenberg long? Because he sat there at the end of the race. He's like, my tyres were sitting at 140 degrees. I had no grip left. Like, listen to your driver. You know what I mean? He's the one out there racing those tyres.
I think we can definitely say that the year started off a little bit shonky for Ricciardo within that team, and obviously it's a whole new team, whole new environment, coming from one of the leading teams to a at best midfield running team. He took a little while to get to grips with it, and Hulkenberg in those first couple of races had the upper hand. But I think now we've well and truly, I think Ricciardo's established himself there, hasn't he? Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
He's got it over Hulk now, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hulk only got 10th, I think, because after that crash happened with Vettel and Max Verstappen, that sort of put him up one spot. And then I think I heard that they said they thought he had an engine issue as well. So his car was put into like a safety limp mode, which didn't...
And he lost the position because of it, but it was a glitch in the sensor or something. There wasn't actually a problem with the motor, so it was just one of those weekends for Hulk. He was seeing green, I'm sure.
166 Grand Prix starts, so...
There you go.
He will maybe one day get there. Who knows? But yeah, it's I mean, it's good for Ricciardo, not so good for Hulkenberg, but it was a great race, and that was our 5 lights on, 5 lights out segment for the Silverstone Grand Prix. Now, we can get into the checkered flag, and we can talk over any other little points that we want to mention. I noticed you've got broadcast was so much better with Ted.
Just how much better is it with Ted there? He just adds his little bits here and there.
He's done it for so long.
He's informative. Yeah.
He's just so comfortable, and he knows everything that's going on. He knows little details. He sees things. He knows people, obviously. It is good to have him back. I do agree.
He doesn't waffle on. I don't think he talks crap. I think he just brings so much to the broadcast. I noticed that this weekend. I went, geez, how much better is it with him here?
I do agree. I do really enjoy Ted. And it's a shame that he hasn't been here all season. Obviously, I don't know if that's because of
It's that new boss they've got there at Sky. I don't know if they just didn't get off on the right foot or what happened there. But, well, I don't know if people are vocal enough. Maybe, hopefully, it gets through to Sky that,
Well, I know he's got a fan
Ted
club.
Back full time.
Yeah, he's got a fan club. So,
# we want Ted.
Yeah, I want him back full time.
Those
Full
few
time.
times when he actually sits in on an FP1 or an FP2 and sits in the box with Crofty, I find them enjoyable too, because it just brings a different perspective. He brings up different points to what the other guys bring up,
Yeah, well, that's because he's always down the pits and he can sees everything that happens.
He's got rapport with a lot of the team managers and drivers.
Yeah, and that goes a long way.
One other thing that I was going to mention is we've been slaying Gasly all year. Now, this weekend, is this the weekend that saves his career, if not just his seat?
Does it save his career, you reckon?
Well, we've been talking about how Red Bull are going to get rid of him, and in actuality, when you think about it, it's more like who are they going to put in place of him? So if he starts performing, if he can repeat what he did again this weekend in Germany, you'd have to start thinking, well, okay, maybe there's hope here yet, because he did qualify behind Max, but he was just behind him this time.
3/10, to a bit, yeah.
And I heard Jensen once again make a really good point, which is true. Like, even Christian Horner was like, really happy that Gasly's only 3/10 behind Verstappen. Whereas in a normal, like if Bottas was 3/10 behind Hamilton in qualifying, he'd be pissed. Not happy that you're only 3/10 behind Hamilton.
I mean,
you know
it's
what
I'm
saying?
It's a long way in Formula One, but it's an improvement. He just needs to now show that consistency.
From where he's been to where he was this weekend, he was fighting with Vettel. He had a good battle with him. He actually passed him.
Yeah.
He wasn't. At least he finished the race in the same postcode as Max. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, Max was obviously in that crash, and that's what helped Gasly a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, I'll give it to him. I mean, it was a lot better than anything we've seen prior.
I thought so. Like, I was genuinely pleased for him that he actually showed up.
I think he needs consistency from here on in, though. You can't just have one good race.
100% agree.
Just can't have one. And I will have to say, Stroll didn't make it out of Q1 again. I mean, neither did Perez, but just...
Yeah, but it's a Stroll tally.
Yeah, it is a Stroll tally.
It's 14 in a row now.
It's just...
14 in a row.
It's just bad. Really bad.
This could be going for some all-time record. I mean, we can't include the Williams in such a thing when the car is constantly never capable of making Q2, but when you've got a Force India, now a Racing Point with a Mercedes engine in it, which does make regular Q2 appearances with the other car, it's pretty bad.
Agreed.
Now, what about our old mate Lando? He is just a definite future champion, I say.
Oh, he's a what do you call it? A home. What do they say when you're like a fan favorite? Something I can't remember, but he's basically a household name now. That's the word, Norris.
You know what it is? I was thinking this weekend, but Dan was such a breath of fresh air when he first came on the scene with his big smile, and everyone loves it. And his larrikin Aussie character that he came with, because we had Webber before him, and he did throw a few odd jokes, but Webber was very stiff compared to Dan.
Yeah,
you'd have to say. Whereas I think Lando is very much in the Dan mould. He's a little bit of a joker. He comes across so likeable, and he just seems like a real genuine guy. Did you see him taking Johnny Herbert around the track in the McLaren Senna?
I didn't get to watch a lot of extra content this week. I was too busy.
He was having a good laugh with Johnny Herbert taking him for a thrashing in the new McLaren Senna supercar, and Johnny was egging him on, saying, come on, show off to the crowd, they're there, so he's full drifting around, I don't know what it was, Stowe, one of the corners, and then he lost it, and he beached it in the kitty litter, and he was just killing himself laughing. It was good to watch. It just, he doesn't take himself too seriously, he's having a good time, and I think this is what a lot of fans and people are just really warming to.
Yeah, and I always notice, he's common on the internet, like he streams all the time. He connects with the younger audience, I think, really well, because he's like the king of memes, and I know what you mean. He's a larrikin. He's fun to be around.
Definitely exciting times ahead with him, Max, Leclerc. We're in for good times, I'm telling you, for years to come.
We definitely are. Now, I think checkered flag falls.
That is the Silverstone Grand Prix done and dusted, guys.
We need to give out the S3 awards, though.
Oh, yeah.
Have you figured yours out?
I will figure them out on the fly.
All right. Well, I'll give you my superstar. I'm just going to give it to Hamilton this weekend.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think getting the fastest lap on the old tyres, for instance, he just had a good race. I know he lucked out. I will say he lucked out a little bit, but it goes through the whole weekend and everything, including qualifying. I know he didn't get pole, but he was showing it to Bottas, and he just didn't drop his head, and he got there in the end. And I think just overriding the Mercedes call to stay out as well was just a good call. I think he just showed us why he's one of the best drivers in the current era.
Yeah, he is.
It's hard to fault Hamilton most weekends anyway.
He's a machine, just like the machine that he drives. But my plus 2 points went to Leclerc this weekend. I thought it was a awesome comeback from Austria. He stood his ground well to Max. I thought it was a real impressive, level-headed drive from him.
It was good. I think it was just on the edge as well. Like, it was aggressive, but it was good aggression.
I don't feel like he could have done any better with the car that he had this weekend.
No, fair enough. Surpriser. I'm going to give it to Albon. I think he had a really good week. I know Norris had a good weekend, but I think Albon really showed his ability this time round in Silverstone. I mean, he finished just behind Norris. They had good little battles out there because he came 12th.
He finished 12th, yep.
Yeah, and in qualifying he was 9th, so he got into Q3, which he beat Kvyat. So I really think Albon was the surpriser for me.
Okay, that's interesting because I actually was going to go the other way and I was giving my 1 point to Kvyat this weekend because he did miss Q3 and he was dirty on himself, but he ended up finishing 9th and he had a solid drive. Didn't get too much airtime, but I was noticing him just, battling away.
Yeah,
I was going to give it to Gio until he dropped it because he had a
I don't know if that was his fault though.
So that was the other one. I ummed and ahed if I should give him the 1 point, but it just looked really like he just lost it under downshifting there. But was there any mechanical fault?
I don't know. Was it just the transfer of weight when he downshifted, was it, that caused the spin?
That's what it looked like to me. Like he just was downshifting under brakes and then the back end just stepped out and he just totally lost it. And he was on for a great weekend. He qualified really well. I think it's 3 times in a row now that he's out-qualified Kimi.
Yeah. I mean, he had a good week. It was just a weird, because he did it all himself. So I thought something might have broken or whatever, but downshifting would explain it.
Who's your stinker?
Oh, Vettel. Easily. I mean, I almost wanted to give it to one of the Haas boys, but I think Vettel just shocking. Crap in qualifying, and the race it all unravelled from there.
I'm sorry, but I just have to give it to Rogro.
I was going to do that myself.
I just have to.
I mean, yeah, not a smart move. But
maybe I'm just feeling a little bit too sorry for Vettel.
I think Vettel, he's just made too many mistakes. I know so have Grosjean and co, but Vettel knows better, I think. And he's just something's getting him down at the moment.
It's just not right, is it?
Well, anyway, that's our 3 awards, and we'll have the tally for you soon. Soon, very soon.
My rookie of the weekend, as I said, I was thinking about giving Gio the 1 point as a surpriser, so I'm just going to give him the rookie of the weekend. He's been qualifying. He's upped his game. He had a really slow and uneventful start to the season, but I think he's starting to really find his feet there in that Alpha team.
Yeah, he's doing really well. I wonder how much Raikkonen's helping that as well.
He probably is,
Yeah.
That's probably a very good point.
I mean, he would be an invaluable driver to have you mentoring you along. My rookie, I'm going to double up and give it to Albon. I was impressed by his performance this weekend all round.
He's another one he's definitely a quiet achiever too, isn't he? Like, he doesn't get too much airtime. He doesn't say much.
No, but I really like the bloke as well. I think I did see an interview with him, and he just seems he seems genuinely like he's enjoying it. He's having a good time. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he seems like a level-headed bloke.
Yeah, I really like him. So, but I think he had a really good weekend considering. So, I'm going to give it to Albon.
All right, well, hit me with your Germany predictions while we're moving along here.
Oh, I've got them here.
Oh, wow, you are organised, son.
First place, I think it goes without saying. I think it's going to be Lewis Hamilton.
How many is he going to rack up by the end of the year, eh?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot. He's going to win the championship, I think, unless something dramatic goes wrong. Second place will be Bottas. I think the Mercedes is just going to dominate Hockenheim. And then I'm going to give it to Leclerc in third because he's just on form right now. You just can't beat him. And then I'm going to go Max Verstappen in fourth and Vettel fifth. Just because he's just having that slump in form right now, and I don't know. I know I would like to see him up there at home, especially in Germany. It's a good do for the sport in the country, but yeah, I don't know. Vettel, he's got a lot of mountains to climb.
He really does. I can't put him on top. I'm gonna have to put Bottas on top.
Okay.
I'm gonna flip yours around. I'm gonna go Bottas and Ham.
I'd like to see
Then
Bottas
Vettel
on top too.
And then Vet on third.
Yep.
And let's say Max and then Leclerc. Let's say they have another epic battle for us to
Oh, that'd be so good.
ooze over.
That'd be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Well, there was a bit of rain around last year, if you remember. This is where Vettel's downfall pretty much began. So let's hope there's a little bit of moisture in the air to spice things up a bit in a couple of weeks in Germany.
Well, going back to our predictions from Silverstone, I did get Hamilton this week, so I got 1 point there.
I got a big fat donut this week.
And I think I might be back on top. So swings and roundabouts in this prediction competition. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens at the end of it all. So I can't wait to see what we figure out when we all tally this up during the break.
Talking about swings and roundabouts, if we move on to the Fantasy League, I was just having a look at it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You had a ripper week this week. You had 188 points.
Yeah, man. I raked
and you've
them in.
moved up to 7th on the ladder now.
Yeah, I got some massive points for Verstappen. Sainz was my turbo. Kvyat got me some good points. Mercedes, obviously, for my constructor. Ricciardo got me some nice points. Forget who else I've got in there. But, yeah, I had a really good team. And you only got like 108 or 109 or something?
109.
Oh.
I slipped down to 12th now. We were close, but this week you just blew me out of the park. I had Norris as my turbo.
Yeah, that was...
He only got like 6 points. He really... Because he got screwed over by the strategy. As you said, there was a lot of strategy in this race, and he even had a little bit of a blow-up about it, which I respect as a rookie. He's not shy, at least, to speak his mind when it needs to be said.
Yeah, I don't think he was blowing up. I think he was just sort of just venting that the strategy screwed his race. It wasn't really their fault.
They were telling him, basically, his race engineer was telling him to, come on, mate, head down, we got this, keep going, and he was like, yeah, whatever, man, I've already been screwed with the strategy, so...
Might as well.
Yeah, he
Might
was
as well
not
just
very
keep
happy.
Ricardo out of my DRS.
So, East Coast Autos is still leading. She's 295 points behind her. You are now. So, I had a look.
Oh, sorry. So, if I have like a ripper of a weekend and Bethany doesn't have a good one, I could be up there.
Well, at the very least, it's very tight from about third down to where you are. So it's a good battle happening there on the Fantasy League stakes.
Don't forget, you can join at any time. It'll slot you in starting at that Grand Prix, and then it'll tally up from that Grand Prix against everyone else. So you can still compete starting from Hockenheimring and then go from there. So
you mean someone can join this week?
Yeah.
And they can still be competitive with
from Hockenheim
leaderboard.
Forward. So,
I see.
Because this league where we've all started is from being Melbourne to the end, but if you start at Hockenheim, it'll start a tally from Hockenheim to the end, so you can battle.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So if you
don't so much about this fantasy league, they really need to simplify it.
It is a bit hard, the point system, but I guess it works.
When you get 188 points, you're not complaining,
No,
eh?
I'm not. I liked it. I did well. Now, some sim racing esports news. The world's fastest gamer season 2 is kicked off for McLaren. I think it was Rudy Van Bruin who won last year, and he got about $1 million in prize money and a sim seat with McLaren. I'm not sure of the prizes exactly this year, but it's all started to kick off. I had a go at on Project Cars 2. They had you running around Bathurst in the McLaren MP1, and that was a hard task. The times some guys were pulling out were just phenomenally quick. So, some tight competition.
That must be one of the, if not the richest sim racing sport out there. $1 million prize, wow.
Yeah, it's only going to go up. It's only going to go up.
$1 million for winning a game.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, he had to do the whole weekend with McLaren and all that jazz, but so it wasn't just winning a race, but there was a lot more to it.
Yeah, there is. I do remember seeing some footage of it last year, because they get like the top 10 or something, and then they get them, they cull them down little bit by little bit. They get them to do certain tasks. Is that what I was seeing? I think that's
they had a race, I think, at like Interlagos, where they said everyone on like 10 laps to go, you're going to be stuck in third gear. They just give them different scenarios like that and see who, works around it the best, or seeing even if they're practicing for that, because they obviously know. Like if you're told before a race weekend that 10 laps to go, you're going to be stuck in third gear, you're going to be practicing that all weekend.
Correct.
So they're just trying to figure out like how race-minded the driver is, how they, how they use their support team around them, and just teaching them to be a race car driver, basically.
Okay.
So it's very interesting, and it has already kicked off. So I think either round 2 or 3 should be starting up soon on. I know Project Cars 2 definitely has one of the qualifying rounds on them, so you can give that a go if you feel keen enough.
I don't really have too much in the way of sim racing or esports or any of that stuff this week. The only bit I've got is I did download Race Room Experience last weekend. Steam had a great sale, summer sale they were having. I mean, it's our winter, but it was a Steam summer sale.
You can thank me for that one.
And you put that onto me, and I went bang, and I told a lot of people too, and whoever listened is also very happy, because
was all the
Race Room Experience, it's like $1,000 worth of content we got for like $100.
Yeah.
I got Assetto Corsa, which was not ACC, but the original Assetto Corsa, which was 72% off, and I got that for like $27.
Some good mods for AEC Assetto Corsa, especially Formula 1 mods. Some really good ones out there.
So I'm looking forward to testing out these sims now. I mean, Race Room, I've had a little bit of a dabble into it, and it is a bit of an eye-opener. It is pretty good, and it's good looking too.
It is.
The graphics.
We must talk about the Friday Night League race at Austria we just had. That was a good race. It was a wet qualifying. Was it a wet race starting to dry?
No. It started off dry and then turned wet, and I was out in the first corner, got taken out, unfortunately, so a big DNF for me. And
yeah, you can just see it in the stream. Just see it at the back. I just missed it.
But the race itself, well, you tell me. You commentated on it. How good was it?
Oh, it was so good. There was Hawks was having some good battles up through the field. It was almost Max vs Leclerc-esque. It was that good. And then there was all the strategy calls that happened. There was a few incidences here and there. And then towards the end, the rain started falling. So it was, judging when you need to be on those intermediates, because you needed to by the end of it. But it was, when do I go in? So there were positions gained up and down the whole field, and it was a really, really good race. It was a pleasure to commentate.
If anyone out there hasn't seen it yet, jump onto www.fnl1esports.com, which will take you to our Facebook page, and you can just scroll down, you'll catch a stream there, Otherwise, get onto Demo 1 Garage, and Josh has always got it there live. but you can catch the replay. If you know anyone who loves Formula One, I mean, don't just say, "Oh, this is a game." Just have a look at it. I mean, we race on Friday nights, and my usual routine is on a Saturday morning I get up and I make a bit of breakfast and I sit down on the couch and I watch it on YouTube on TV. And there was a morning there early on where my wife came in and she's sitting there and she thought I was actually watching the real Formula One. Like, for people that don't know, the graphics are that good that it looks really good.
Considering it's on a PlayStation 4, they did a good job. I will admit that.
It does look that good. So if you're just kind of writing it off and just thinking, "Oh, it's just a game," no, just have a look at it, make your own mind up.
Yeah, give it a shot. Anyway, I think that wraps up episode 12 this week. It's been a pretty good episode. We had a lot to talk about. We covered it pretty much all. And
we've got a 2-week break before Germany.
One thing we forgot to do through the whole start was to tell you to go like, subscribe, and follow. I meant to do that. I'll do that. I'll have to add that in at the start. But if you've made it this far, please do so. iTunes as well. Don't forget to give us a rating. 5 stars would be nice. Thank you. Leave a comment. You can get involved with the podcast. You can let us know what you like. Let us know what you hate. We'd appreciate the feedback. But
ask us a question. Tell us hi.
Yeah, tell us your opinion on something.
Get involved, guys. Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. But thanks for joining us for this one. My name's Josh, and I'm from Demo 1. As I say, race hard and on the edge. And Aussie.
And I am Dr. Aussie from FNL1 Esports, and push it to the limit and keep it on track.
Good night.
Good night.
You've been listening to the Lights Out F1 podcast with Dr. Aussie from FNL1 Esports and Josh from Demo1Garage.com. New podcast every week after the Grand Prix. Thanks for listening.